Hey PPR fans, welcome to PPR podcast number 203. It's week 14 of the football season. We have so much to cover. I'm Maddy Worley, usually joined here by Chase Isidoro. He's not in today, but we're joined by first-year Red Jacket Shane Donovan. Shane is a San Diego native. Also, he played football at Classical Academy just a couple years ago, so he's definitely got some good insight and has been a great addition to the PPR team. Shane, we have a lot to cover this week.
We really do. This is going to be a fun one to cover, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. But first, before we get into what's coming up, we need to talk about some of the biggest games that happened last week, primarily as the Open Division started. First, we saw Lincoln and Mission Hills. That was a wild game. It did not go how most people thought that game would go. What did you see in that?
I mean, yeah, you know, we all kind of thought that Lincoln was going to come in and kind of just being able to handle business, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Mission Hills has been impressive, but we didn't know if they were going to be able to play up to that level. And, you know, it was a close game. It was 13-7, overtime win. And it came down to a game of inches, right? Because that's what we always say. Football is a game of inches. But when it really comes down to it, it really is. And so, I mean, relentless defense wins championships, right? Lincoln, this is the type of game that they needed to continue to give them that energy to continue on into this Open Division matchup. 100%.
Mission Hills played really well. They proved themselves as a tough opponent, a tough team to beat. That's why they made the Open Division in the first place. So no shade to them at all for losing, especially against a Lincoln team that's been so dominant in our county this year. I mean, it was the overtime, not even the fourth quarter, it was overtime. The first possession, Mission Hills had the ball. Giovanni Hart, he's always great. He gets the run. I think he thought he was in the end zone, or at least some of the fans did. A lot of reactions going on, and boom, Nico Tala just smacks it out. The ball's on the floor, and really, at the end of the day, that's what finished it out for them.
Exactly. You know, I mean, we saw it in the NFL this past week, right?
Exactly.
Like, players just getting right near the end zone, and they drop the ball or just aren't holding on to it so tight because, you know, you see the end zone and you're getting ready to celebrate. So it really does, like I said, come down to that game of inches, but that relentless defense is what gave them that win.
Yeah, defense wins championships,
Exactly.
And we saw that. And, you know, Lincoln's hoping to win one of those this week. Mm-hmm. But first, they're going to have to get past Cathedral, who played really well against a talented La Costa Canyon team this week, winning 27-6.
Yeah, I mean, LCC's looked impressive the entire season, you know, and we kind of were looking forward to this matchup because, you know, Cathedral has kind of had almost in a sense an up and down year in their standards. It seems like they had some transfers coming in, so it took a little time for them to be able to click. But it just feels like they've got the ball rolling here. A big win, 27-6 over LCC. This is a statement win, and this is exactly what they need to go into this next Open Division championship.
I agree. It gives them some great momentum heading into not just a big game being the Open Division championship, but also a rematch against probably their toughest opponent that they may have faced all year in Cathedral. Last time they played each other, you know, Lincoln went away with the win, and Cathedral likely has a bit of a chip on their shoulder from that. They are going to want to prove themselves as being, you know, everyone's been saying Lincoln is a step above all the rest below them. I think Cathedral, they want to challenge that. Are they going to be able to do that? I'm not sure. That's what we're going to get to see this week at the Open Division Championship at Snapdragon. I'm super excited to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be an impressive game, a really fun game. And, I mean, it is very, very, very difficult to beat a team twice, especially in the same year. This Cathedral team is hungry, like you said. They've had those growing pains. They've grown together, but it's really just going to come down to whether or not which team wants it more. It's all a mental game now, you know. We've gone all the way through the regular season, and you've played all these games, and your body's hurting. It's who is going to be mentally tough, who is going to be able to push through and get that extra yard that is going to be the difference maker.
I think bringing in the mental aspect of the game is super important, especially last year, Lincoln was in this position to win the Open Division. They were heavy favorites, in my opinion, at least that's what I believed. Yeah. And it came down to a game of inches, super close game with Granite Hills that they ultimately lost. This time around, there is so much more at stake for them as they're saying, we are the best team in San Diego. We want to take this win. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Exactly. I mean, and you look at what Lincoln has on the offensive side of the ball. Alki Smith, Ty Olson, Aiden Jackson. Like, these guys are legit. But I think the key for them is going to be stopping Aiden Jackson. If Cathedral's able to stop them, they have Luke Westfall, and that D-line really needs to step up. And so I think Cathedral is going to win this game on the defensive side of the ball.
And Cathedral has one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the county. Very well coached, well disciplined. And man, they're an aggressive defense. They go out there with fire. And when you're playing against a Lincoln team that is so dominant, so skilled, and so aggressive, it's going to be super, super exciting to watch. I think Lincoln can take it. Who do you pick?
It's tough. And, I said it earlier, it's very hard to beat a team twice. And so I have Cathedral winning this game. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think Cathedral's going to come out on top. I think it's going to come down to a final drive or a final stop on defense.
I agree. I think it's going to be much closer than the game we saw early on in the season from them. Enough about the Open Division, although it's highly exciting. We've got some more exciting games starting in the Division 1 bracket. We have 4-seed El Camino visiting 1-seed San Marcos. Both teams coming off some big games last week. It's a huge statement to make it to the Division 1 semifinals. What do you expect to see from this game?
I mean, both of these teams have been impressive all year, right? San Marcos kind of came straight out of the gate with a huge win against RBV, and they really haven't looked back. They've had some step backs facing Mission Hills. That was a very close game. But this San Marcos team is legit. Crete Makaele, Jace Nix, Caleb Reese, they have got absolute weapons to use on offense. CJ Williams, too. This is a very good team. And, El Camino's had a pretty up and down year in their standards, I would say. Their offense seems to hasn't been able to click at some points. Their defense hasn't communicated as well, and that's going to be the key for them. If their defense is able to communicate, because this defense is all about assignment football. Assignment football is going to win championships, and if El Camino is able to buy in, trust the coaches, trust the play calls coming in, and communicate with each other, that's going to be the difference for them in this game.
And I think that difference showed last week as they played Mount Miguel. I didn't have El Camino favored to win that game, but man, they looked really good and they caused problems for a Mount Miguel offense that has so much star power, so much skill. Their defense stepped it up. I mean, they won 43-27. Also, you have to have a pretty good offense to put up those points against a Mount Miguel team. They are in a really good position to face a team that's as strong as San Marcos is and put themselves in contention to make it to the Division I championships.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Mount Miguel, insane team, right? You look on paper and they've got 5 stars, 4 stars. They've got it all. But El Camino did a terrific job in, like I said, playing that assignment football. And if these guys are able to be unselfish players and get 11 hats on the ball every single time, that's what's going to win them this game.
Yeah, sometimes that just works. Do your assignment, play good football, and you can win games. We saw that, and they're hoping to do it again. But on the other side of the Division I bracket, we have a game that I'm super looking forward to seeing. It's Granite Hills, the 3-seed, at Carlsbad, the 2-seed. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu. We saw these teams face off last year in the semifinals. It was for the Open Division. This time it's for Division I. But I don't think that takes away from the excitement or the wild game that we're going to see between these two. I mean, last year it was an absolute thriller in the semifinals. You had so much talent. You had Julian Sayin favored to make it to the Open Division. They ultimately did not. Granite won 46-45. They rushed the field, ultimately punched their ticket to what led to being the best team in the San Diego section last year. Can they beat Carlsbad again this time in D1 is the question.
Yeah, that's the question. They had that impressive run last year, and they have some returning players, right? Running back Max Turner. He's going to be the biggest factor in this game, I think.
As usual.
If you look at the stats, this guy is their offense. He is their team, you could say. And you look on the other side of the ball, Carlsbad. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation for the last couple of years in Julian, right? What is life without Julian Saint, Because it's a luxury to have that type of quarterback because he brings star power. They had guys transferring him from all these other places. So Carlsbad's always been kind of that team these last couple of years. So it's in their eyes, it's a little bit of a down year, you could say. But a down year, D1, like it's still.
To most people, this would never be considered a down year.
Exactly, but they had a good win against RB last week, 26-0, right? They handled business, did what they were supposed to do. But now, like you said, coming in against Granite, it's a little bit of a revenge game. A lot of these guys from last year, they want this win for them tonight, and we'll see if they show up. It's going to be close, but I really think that home field advantage is going to give them a big help. In
an environment like Carlsbad, I 100% agree. I mean, I think it comes down to, can the Carlsbad defense create a scheme strong enough to stop Max Turner? Because he's really good. He's a Silver Pigskin finalist for a reason. Yeah. Look at the stats. See what he can do every game. He is carrying the team on his back. They have a ton of other people, so it's controversial to say that. But he has so many touchdowns, so many yards. He's a great player. Carlsbad, everyone wants to talk about who they are after losing Julian. They're still really good. Yeah. They've made it here. They've been playing very well. And last week we saw something interesting, perhaps a new weapon for them, something in their tool belt. They brought up a kid from JV, Kai Brown, and now a crucial member of their offense. He scored 3 touchdowns in a big playoff game against Rancho Bernardo. So I'm excited to see him appear again. I think he will. Who really knows when it's just some kid moving up from JV, but good on him. And, that's something new that Granite Hills defense is going to have to look out for.
Exactly. I mean, what a moment for him, right? Coming up from JV and then scoring 3 touchdowns your first, that's impressive, especially at the D1 level playoffs. That's crazy. So, I mean, ultimately, like we were saying, it's going to come down to whether or not this front 7 can stop Max Turner, because this guy is legit. So if they're able to just play that assignment football, right, hold on to those blocks and shed them, it's going to be a close one. It'll be fun.
It will be a close one. I'm a little bit hoping it looks something like it did last year, coming out of the last seconds, an absolutely ecstatic crowd, on either side. Whoever wins, it's going to be very fired up at Carlsbad. But now we move on to Division II. We have 4-seed Poway visiting 1-seed University City for our city game of the week.
Yeah, so I mean, Poway lost 6 straight at the end of the regular season. Not the way you want to end the season. So, but they were able to bounce back last week against Point Loma. Yeah. Point Loma get a pretty good win. And you kind of just have to ask, when you lose that many games, when you don't finish that season strong, how bought in is the team? That's the real question. You get the win against Point Loma, right? But University City, this is a good team. So in order to beat these guys, you guys all have to be bought in, all bought into this same scheme, everything. So that's going to be the biggest thing, and it's whether or not wide receiver Colin McCain is going to be able to show up, because that guy's been kind of propelling their offense, you could say. He's been a really big factor for them this season, and so we'll kind of see what it looks like for them.
Yeah, I also think from Poway, I've had an eye on Luke Jorgensen. Last game, he had 103 yards on 16 carries and 2 touchdowns. They're a team that's maybe not very flashy in a way like a University City might be, but if they can play assignment football like we've mentioned, I do think they have a chance, especially after seeing them beat Point Loma 28-7, a pretty decisive victory. That's not how I had scripted out that game. Who knows what they're going to do? Although University City is really good. They're a team that they can be pretty fun to watch because they have these athletes on their team who make crazy plays on offense and on defense. A lot of their guys will go both ways. And, they looked really good against Christian last week. I mean, Quentin DeMara, he was playing strong against their defense, getting out of the scrambles and able to make beautiful touchdown passes, get the yards. That's what you have to do. You have to play hard and, get to that next position, which I think they're going to do. I'm going to give University City the upper hand in this matchup over Poway. However, they're a little known to have their sloppy moments, get some penalties. I mean, that can really hurt you at times, especially when I think the adrenaline and the desire to, make it to a championship game. It's not even the next playoff game. It's a championship game you're trying to make it to. At this point, you have to remain poised, I guess, as a team, and just stick to the game plan. Don't get penalties, and I think UC can take this.
I mean, you said it perfectly, right? I mean, as much as football is a physical game, I like to think it's more of a mental game, right? Especially on the defensive side of football. Like, if you're able to manipulate the offense into doing what you want them to do, thinking what stuff is open, that's where you're going to make plays. And so for University City to be able to buy in, to be able to trust their eyes, to trust what they're seeing, that's going to be the biggest factor. And then you look at that offense, man. Like, they spread the ball out well, right? But they have just got firepower. It's, like you said, exciting to watch. And, you know, this game is going to be fun. I mean, I kind of see Poway kind of pulling away with this. You know, I think Poway's just going to be able to come in and kind of control this game, I think. But that's just my take. We'll see.
We'll see what happens on Friday night.
Exactly.
Now we get to talk about the highly anticipated game of the week, where we have 3-seed Helix at 2-seed Mater Dei. We've talked about teams having down years. I think for Helix and Mater Dei, especially at the beginning, that looked like what was going on. It's hard to call it a down year when you are in contention to make it to a Division II championship. Many schools, most schools around the county, wouldn't consider this that. However, when you've been some of the most dominant teams in our section for so many years, being state champs, being Division I champs, it's hard to, you know, take a little bit of a humble moment, I guess, and step down. But you know what? They're doing it right, because they're stepping down but saying, hey, we're going to be the best in our division. I think that's what they're doing here. Mater Dei beat Bishops last week 47-14. Helix beat La Jolla 41-25. Both of them some pretty decisive victories. And I think Division II, with the strength of schedule system, is a good place for these two teams this year. I think they're very comparable teams, which makes it a nice matchup for the game of the week.
Yeah, I mean, like, you said it perfectly. Like, this is the way that the playoffs have all worked out due to the strength of schedule. You know, it's allowed for these fun matchups that we're able to see, right? And both of those teams that you mentioned, Bishops and La Jolla, both have been very good teams this season. They've been impressive on offense, but these defenses stepped up these weeks. You know, my biggest factor in this game are going to be the Isaiahs. Isaiah Cox for Helix, or Isaiah Jackson, sorry, for Helix. This guy is legit. He can do it all, right? He is their offense. And then you look on the other side, Isaiah Cook, right? He's just an incredible player. And so it's really going to come down to which Isaiah I think is going to kind of pull away with this one.
Yeah, maybe we can coin this the Battle of the Isaiahs.
The Battle of the Isaiahs, I like that, yeah. So we'll see.
You know, I think Mater Dei, we see a little more of a passing game. Helix, we definitely see more running the ball. That's just how their offense is structured and has been structured, I think, for most, you know, a long time with Helix. They have a history of great running backs there. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they scheme against each other. They haven't faced each other yet. It's going to be a very nice matchup. They both want to make it to this championship, I think. Seeing these two teams start off a little rough. You know, Mater Dei, they were not winning early on. Neither was Helix. But the last couple weeks, they're reminding us who they are. In this game, getting to see them back in that game of the week slot with all the fanfare that there is, they're telling us we're still the same Helix and Mater Dei that you've watched for however many years, and we're going to put on a show this week.
Exactly. I mean, Mater Dei was getting a lot of heat those first couple weeks, right? But I mean, they were able to get their 8th straight win this past week. So that, I mean, that in itself shows growth as a team. People don't really get to see what's inside of a team if you're just kind of a fan watching. It takes so much to be able to bounce back from those losses because mentally it gets to you, right? Those losses, you start hearing the outside voices, you start hearing the pressures of, I go to Mater Dei, like we got to perform. Like these, like you said, these are two very historically good teams, and so when you're not winning at Helix or Mater Dei, there's alumni, fans, they're asking questions. But both of these teams have responded very well in these past couple weeks. And so this is going to be a very, very exciting game of the week.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a toss-up. I'm not sure who to favor here.
I don't know, man. I honestly, I'm probably going to take Mater Dei in this matchup. Just, I like that high-powered offense against against Helix. So we'll see, though. It's going to be fun.
We'll see what happens in this Battle of the Isaiahs. But now we move on to Division III. San Pasqual taking the trip out to El Centro as they face Central Union. You know, they're the 4 seed visiting the 1 seed. We'll see how close the seedings really are here. Last week, San Pasqual beat Eastlake 24-13, where Central beat Patrick Henry 20-12 on their own turf.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun matchup, I think. You know, San Pasqual has always kind of been more of a running team, you know, but they've kind of transitioned a little bit to a more high-powered offense. You know, they got 2 juniors in Robert Rentiera and Marcos Roca, and these guys are balling out for San Pasqual. Like, these guys are legit. And so it's really going to come down to whether or not Central Union is going to be able to control this game on the back end, right? What are those corners going to be doing? How are they going to mentally prepare? Because as a corner, as a safety, you're going to get beat. That's just the reality of football. It's how you respond in those moments where you've given up a play. Are you going to be able to mentally come back and get to that next play and make the play that play? So we'll see. It's going to be fun, but I think the more physical team is going to take this game.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. Also, playing at those desert teams, you're taking the long trip out there. It's a small town. There's nothing to do there. I don't feel bad saying it. My mom went to Central. It's boring to live out there. So when there's a big game on Friday night, you know there's going to be a ton of people. That's a hard environment to be a visitor in, but it's going to make for a really good game for these 2 teams here.
Exactly. I mean, the traveling, like you said, very difficult to do. You go out to these far out schools, especially from, like, if you're kind of more North County, I guess you could say, like Escondido, like San Pasqual is, like going all the way down to Central. You know, it's going to be a tough environment to play in. Like you said, not a lot to do out there. We're not trying to be mean, but that's just kind of how it is. That's the reality. They're all going to be there on Friday, and it's going to be a fun matchup.
On the other side of the bracket, we have one I'm really looking forward to seeing, maybe one of my most anticipated matchups this week. You've got a team with a story. 7 seed Saints at 3 seed San Diego. Saints has been a little bit controversial this playoff season. Not their fault. No, it's just how the strength of schedule works out. They go winless in the regular season, and now here they are in the Division III semifinals facing San Diego.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting matchup, I think. Like you said, a little bit of a controversy with St. Augustine, you know, being in there, but this team is a good team. They've had a lot of injuries this season, and I've been playing really good teams. And so for them to be in this D3 race is kind of perfectly where they're at, because they haven't been blowing out the teams that they've faced, you know.
No.
But I mean, they're winning. So, and then you look on the other side of the ball, you have San Diego, and San Diego just came off of an impressive win, 45-20 against Escondido. And let me tell you, Escondido was hot this year. That is a good program.
That's
over
a
there.
Good win for San Diego
Very
going
impressive.
into this week.
Very impressive. And so, for them to go to a school and do that against Escondido, what is it going to be for them to play a team like Saints? Because Saints, even though they might have gone on 0-10 in the regular season, they played some very good schools, and so they know how to play up to that level.
Exactly.
How is San Diego going to be able to respond? And I mean, both of these schools both have impressive sophomores. San Diego has running back Jaden Johnson. This guy is legit. Seen his film. He is a very, very good player and will be for the next couple years for them. And then you look on the other side of the ball, Saints have Pai Polamalu. Like, his dad's Troy Polamalu. Like this, when I was covering this game, I had to double check. I was like, Polamalu. I was like, is that really Polamalu? Both of these players are very, very good, but I don't know if San Diego is going to be able to play up with Saints. We'll see. It's going to be a very close matchup, I think.
You know, one thing I really like seeing from San Diego is they did have that big win over Escondido, 45-20.
Yeah.
They scored 28 of those points in the fourth quarter. You have to have stamina. You have to have a goal mindset where you're like, you know what? This is the playoffs. We want to go all the way. That's how you score 28 points in the fourth quarter. That's tough to do. They tired out the other team. They got the job done. I think San Diego has a really good chance to beat this St. Augustine team, and I would love to see them in the Division III championship.
I would too. Like you said, scoring 28 in the fourth is very, very impressive, especially on a team like Escondido. Defenses or championships are won in the final minutes of the game, right?
100%.
Fourth quarter, you've got to be able to finish in those moments. And it's hard to do because like I said, your body's hurting from the entire regular season. Playoffs, like these guys have played a couple playoff games, right?
Yeah.
And so it's November, it's mid-November. Playing football in mid-November is fun, right? But their bodies are hurting. So which team is going to be able to mentally push through that pain and be able to come out on top. It's going to be a fun one.
Yep, and now we move on to Division 4, 8 seed Montgomery at 5 seed Westview. That Montgomery-Ramona game was one of my favorites from last week. Montgomery was absolutely fired up. We talked about some tough environments to play in. Ramona's one of those. They went there, got the job done, took the win, beating the top seed in Ramona 28-7 last week. They're in a really nice position to face a Westview team that's been looking pretty good the past few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, very, very impressive win from Montgomery to come in there into Ramona, a very tough place to play. Very cold. Like, let's start. It is cold, especially for us San Diegans. It's cold.
It's been cold.
So that was a very good win. And then on the other side of the ball, Westview, they've played some pretty tough teams this year, and they have a star quarterback in Mason Walsh. This guy's good. But it's all coming down to whether or not he makes the right decision. He's a very good athlete. As a quarterback, it's a little shaky at times. You know, he tries to make the play every single time, and sometimes it doesn't go his way, right? We see a lot of turnovers, stuff like that. This is going to be a very, very interesting matchup for people to look at because Westview, I think people are underestimating Westview. I think Westview is a very, very good school.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, Montgomery can't say, oh, we beat the 1 seed, here we go. Westview is going to make it tough for them. This is a really good matchup. These two teams, I like seeing them face off against each other at this point in time. They've got to get the job done this week in order to face the other side of the bracket. We've got Grossmont taking on El Cap. Of course, it's going to be the East County game of the week with those two schools. It's a really nice matchup. El Cap has absolutely been on a roll, winning their last 7 games, including a big quarterfinal game against Chula Vista, where they took the win 44-13 after they already lost to Chula Vista in the regular season. They said, you know what, we're not letting that happen again, and we want to stay in playoffs. They did just that. They had a chip on their shoulder. Things worked out. And then they're going to be facing Grossmont, who plays the longest games ever. They always take so much time because they are just throwing the ball. But you know what? It's worked out for them. Last week, they beat Mira Mesa 49-24. Tommy Donovan had 4 touchdowns on the night. You know, it's going to be a nice game for these two.
Yeah, Tommy Donovan is legit. Like, and I'm not just saying that because my last name's Donovan also. This guy's legit. He has almost 4,000 passing yards. Like that's hard to do in high school. Let's just say that. But for El Cap to come off for 7 straight wins, it is going to be a huge question for whether or not their D-line can get home. If they're able to get pressure into Thomas Donovan's face, that's going to be the difference maker in this game because if your quarterback does not have time to be able to read that defense, he starts second-guessing himself, right? As a quarterback, you never want to second-guess yourself. You don't want to be thinking out there. You want to be reacting. And so if he's thinking out there, because when you got a guy in your face, especially those big D linemen, right, you're thinking a little bit. It's in the back of your mind like, oh, my gosh, I'm about to get, like, plowed, you know? Like, so it'll be interesting to see. So if that D-line can get home, I think El Cap's going to be able to come out with this one.
If El Cap's defense can step up against the offense, which has a lot of stars like Grossmont, it's going to create problems. We've seen that happen to Grossmont throughout this season where, sure, you can put up a ton of points, but if your defense can't step up and if the other team's defense does step up, you're going to run into some problems. It's a really nice matchup between these two teams. Hopefully it won't be raining on Allison again this week.
We'll see.
I looked at it. It's going to be like 78 in Lakeside that day, so she should be fine.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
You know?
We'll see.
Yeah. Now we move on to Division 5, a team that I've really enjoyed watching. 12 seed Monte Vista taking on 1 seed Vista.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, Monte Vista, I love this team. These guys are awesome. So, right, they had a little bit of an up and down year, you could say, in the regular season. But when playoff time comes, you're 0-0. You're locked in. And these guys have done it all. I mean, going into Fallbrook, Fallbrook is a tough place to play because of how cold it is, right? And Fallbrook, one of those teams that got in because of the strength of schedule, right? They hadn't won a game all season. But Fallbrook's still a good team. Yeah. They came in and they were able to eke out that win. Very good win for them right there. And now they're coming in and facing a Vista team who's also kind of been a little bit shaky this season. But it's going to be very interesting to see if Rashawn Florence and Alexander Villanueva are able to make that difference. Because they were able to be, the last 2 weeks, they've been the difference makers. Those guys have been the big players. And so whether or not they're going to be able to step up for that offense, because this is a very high-powered offense, and it's going to be fun to see.
Yeah, Alex Villanueva, he had 6 touchdowns on the night on Friday. Talk about stepping up in a playoff situation. He did just that. Monte Vista has been really fun to watch. I mean, they stunned 4-seed Hoover 47-46, a very close game. Hoover scored a lot in that fourth quarter. Monte Vista is going to have to step it up. They can't let things like that happen again and get so close. Ultimately, they got the job done. How cool would it be to see the bottom seed make it? It's not what anyone expected. I don't know if Coach Hamamoto saw how close he was in the all-time coach winning points or games standings in the playoffs and said, you know what, wait, maybe I want to be number 2 or whatever, because I think he's 3 right now. Good for him. Good for this team. I know they're having fun. I'm excited to see how this one turns out, because even though you have the bottom seed and the top seed, I don't think the talent or ability is that far apart, especially in this division. So it'll be a really nice game to see. And then, of course, the other side of Division 5, you have 3-seed Crawford at 2-seed Bonita. Crawford took down West Hills 21-14 on Friday. Fairly close game. And then Bonita Vista also, they beat Santana 14-0 to get here. You know, Bonita lost their first 3 games of the season, but they just had their first shutout victory. Things are looking better. They're in a pretty good position headed into this. And it's also a rematch from earlier in this season where Bonita Vista took the win 17-7. This time the stakes are higher. Do you think Bonita Vista will win again?
This is going to be a very, very good game. You know, Crawford kind of had an up and down year, like we were saying. Made it to that championship 2 years ago, weren't able to get it done. And a lot of these guys were on that team that are seniors now. They were on that team. And so they've tasted what it feels like to be at that level, to get to that championship game and not get it. So I know these guys are hungry.
Yeah.
And then you look on the other side, Bonita, right? Like you said, they already beat Crawford in the regular season, 17-7. But like I said, this is a very hard thing to do, is to beat a team twice. If Bonita Vista is able to beat this team twice, I'll be impressed. Because I think Crawford's going to come in hungry with that chip on their shoulder, and I have Crawford winning this. It'll be a good matchup, though. It's
going to be a very good matchup. We can't forget about some of these smaller schools, smaller football programs. We got to talk about Division 5 AA. It's actually their championship this week. You have 3-seed Coastal Academy playing 1-seed Calipatria. This is happening Thursday. Coastal coming off a very narrow victory over Tri-City Christian, 8-7. But hey, they won the game. They did what they had to do. They're facing Calipatria, who played Maranatha Christian, winning 20-8 to make the championship. Personally, I think Calipatria is going to take this. They've played a little bit bigger, tougher teams and put up more points throughout the season. But Coastal Academy has looked pretty good. They may not be putting up a ton of points, but they're getting the job done to get where they are now, and it's going to be a good matchup. What do you think you'll see in this game?
I think it'll be a fun one. You know, Coastal's kind of one of those schools that's very new to 11-man football, right? They've transitioned from that 8-man, and they got that big win over Tri-City, where they had lost previously in the regular season. And Tri-City is a very good team as well, especially at this Division 5 AA level. Quarterback Zach Garland's going to be the difference maker in this game. If he's able to make the right plays, be smart. You got to play smart football, especially playoff football.
Oh, yeah.
At championship, you've got to be able to be locked in. Like I said, not reading, but reacting, right? You have to be able to not think about it and just do it. And then you look on the other side, Calipatria. You know, this is a very strong team. Dominic Hawk is going to be a very, very key player in this game. If Coastal's able to come out and be physical and be able to stop Dominic Hawk, I see Coastal winning this. But like I said, I think it's going to be a very, very close matchup, and the more physical team is going to come out on top.
Yeah. Now we move on to the Division 6, the 8-man division. We have St. Joseph's, the 1-seed, playing Calvin Christian, the 3-seed. Shane, you're going to be there. So what are you looking forward to seeing from these two?
This will be fun. This will be my first 8-man game I've ever been to. Okay. So we'll kind of see how that kind of plays out. I'm excited to see. But this St. Joseph's team has over 4,000 rushing yards on the season as a team. Like, and that's kind of what you get at the 8-man level, I guess. But that is impressive. 4,000 rushing yards on the season. So it's really just going to come down to whether or not Calvin Christian's able to stop this running attack. You know, St. Joseph's already beat Calvin Christian 54-22 in the regular season. And so it's going to be, like I said, it's a little different down at 8-man, I think. A little bit harder to beat a team that's already beat you. But I think Calvin Christian is going to maybe pull away with this one. It's going to be a lot closer. We'll see.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
We'll see what happens. There are so many good ones this week. I have a couple favorites, which I mentioned. I think I'm looking forward to seeing Granite Hills and Carlsbad rematch, but at a different division. Kind of interesting. There's a lot at stake. What are you most looking forward to seeing?
I love those guys at Monte Vista. I'm not going to lie. Those guys are awesome. So for them, this is like a miracle run for them, you know? This is very fun. I'm all for the underdog, you know?
Yep.
And so for Monte Vista to come in, beat Fallbrook, beat Hoover. Hoover's a very legit team. That is a good team. And so for them to beat those two teams, now they're facing the 1 seed. What a story if they're able to pull off the upset against Vista. Well, can we call it an upset? I don't know. But
probably the 12 and the 1 seed.
Exactly. So we'll see. That's the game I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's going to be very fun. I love to show love to the lower divisions because you know I'm a lower division guy myself. So we'll kind of see. But yeah, it'll be a fun one this week.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're going to have some fantastic games. There's a lot at stake. We're headed into the championship season. Shane, thanks for joining me, filling in for Chase. This was a great conversation. So many games I'm looking forward to. And with that being said, we will see you Friday night on the PPR.